David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about this book. I Was an NKVD Agent. A top Soviet spy tells his story by Anatoli Granovsky. This book is about Anatoli's life in communist Russia and his escape. When Anatoli was a kid, he and his family lived in the lap of luxury because his father was a top Soviet high-ranking communist. And so Anatoli and his family had all kinds of conveniences that most people didn't have. They had maids, they had cars, they had money, they had vacation homes. But in 1936, things began to change in the Soviet Union. Stalin was a very paranoid leader, so he had these purges. And these purges were made public in the communist show trials. And so there was first, it started in 1936, and that didn't affect the Granovsky family yet. But in 1937 it did, because at 4 a.m., Anatoli's father, Mikhail, was arrested by NKVD agents, and he was taken to prison. Now, he was accused of being an agent against the state or espionage or whatever else, but he had nothing to do with that. So Anatoli and his family were enemies of the state. They were ostracized. Their old friends didn't talk to them anymore. It's just how it went in the Soviet Union. His mother had no hope of ever seeing Mikhail again. But Anatoli, he was more optimistic. He was writing different high-ranking officials in the Soviet government, even Stalin himself, but he got no response. So he came up with a solution. He went out to Red Square and got arrested. All he had to do was just walk by Lenin's mausoleum, and an agent came up to him and basically arrested him for whatever reason. These agents, they had a quota to fill, and so Anatoli was just part of that. So his charges were loitering with the intent to spy, and he was accused of planning an act of violence against the state. And so he was sent to this prison called Butyrka. During an interrogation, he was told to sign a paper with falsified charges, but he didn't do it. So his interrogator pressed a button, and a state security lieutenant came in and gave Anatoli a beating, a major beating. So after several of these types of beatings, Anatoli decided to petition the commissar of the NKVD. And finally, somebody got back to him. He was told that he could have his freedom, but he had to be an NKVD agent. Now, being an agent meant that he had to spy on dissidents. He spied on students, young artists, and intellectuals. Also, old friends that he had made while his father was the high-ranking communist guy. So he wrote reports on counter-revolutionaries, and arrests were made. Obviously, these people were killed. They were liquidated, as they called it. And somewhere along the line, he met a girl named Shura. She was like a part-time lover for him, but he fell in love with this girl. Even though they didn't see each other a lot, but when they were together, they were really together. And so Anatoli had to go to espionage school. And at this school, he was taught many things. A couple of things stand out. Memory tests. They would test his memory on all kinds of things, and he had to go and write these things down and stuff. And another was a sex education, if you call it that. He had a instructor named Rasputin, and this instructor started off by making love to, or having sex with, 5 women, one after another, in front of Anatoli. So Anatoli had to watch. He was being instructed on how to make love to a woman to cause her to fall in love with him. And that's what these sexual exercises were all about. And eventually Anatoli had to have sex with the women. And he was instructed, while the instructor was in the room, telling him what to do to make a woman fall in love with him through sex. All right, so out in the field, Anatoli did have sex with various women for information. He even broke up a plot to kill Stalin. And this was a major plot, and he broke it up. He saved Uncle Joe, Mr. Stalin himself. And now a major turning point in Anatoli's life was when he got news that Shuri, his girlfriend, was captured by the Germans. She was raped for 5 days, and she was hung. They had killed her because, a war was going on at this time. So she was killed. And this made Anatoli question what he was doing, questioned life itself. Anatoli was also critical of Americans who sympathized with the communists. There was one in particular, a man wrote a book called Mission to Moscow, and it was by Joseph E. Davies. This useful idiot actually portrayed the Soviet Union in a positive light. But Anatoli didn't see it that way because he was living there. He didn't see what he was told to see, like these silly Americans that went over there. Now, after a lot of self-examination, Anatoli considered himself to be an enemy of the state. And he said this: I had become an informer, a killer, a male prostitute. And for what? For the greater power and glory of Soviet communism? For the greater and ultimate good? But could any good really result from such a debasement of the self? I suddenly could believe it no longer. Now, he tried to defect a few times, but was able to get out of being prosecuted. Now, sometime before his ultimate defection, he helped with the fall of Berlin. Now, a couple interesting things happened here. One was, it was rumored that Hitler shot himself, and his girlfriend or wife, Eva Braun, had taken poison and killed herself, and then the bodies were cremated. But after interviewing Hitler's cook and nurse, they confessed that Hitler left days ago. He got away before the fall of Berlin. He left. And so he saved himself. He didn't kill himself, and neither did Eva. Now, it was rumored that Hitler and Eva went to Argentina. I actually believe that story. It makes a lot of sense if you really look into it. Now, by a stroke of luck, Anatoli joined the merchant navy. And this navy was to sail around the Black Sea, around the coast of Europe, and then it stopped in Sweden, and that's where he defected. Now, he was arrested a few times, and Anatoli was also visited by the assistant director of the Soviet embassy in Sweden. And the assistant director said that if Anatoli didn't come back, his mother and his brother would basically be tortured and killed. And Anatoli had this to say: tell them, the Soviet Union officials, that I cannot take part in mass murders and mass enslavement of millions of people in order to secure a few years of existence for my beloved mother and brother in the Soviet paradise. If you kill my brother, you will kill him. But it is better for him to die as a child than to suffer the torture of life under communism. However, I am sure you will tell them whatever your masters order you to tell them. The assistant director called Anatoli a filthy traitor. And so on November 8th, 1946, Anatoli was granted asylum by King Gustav V of Sweden. And he was free thereafter. What did this book tell me? It told me that you do not want to live under communism. I mean, I know that this is going around right now. A lot of people keep saying, yeah, socialism, yeah, communism. But you don't want it. You really don't. It's really bad. And only people who really know the history of communism know that it is evil. And it never worked then. It's not going to work now. Well, anyway, that's all I got. Talk to you later.